Welcome back. If you've just joined, good morning Abuja. You've missed our first conversation, but hey, on the brighter side, I still have someone you definitely want to meet, someone who, while I was conversing with, off camera, I really wished I could, just enter his head, because listening to him was more like I was wasting so much time. I needed to enter his head and see what exactly is going on in there, meaning he is loaded. And sit back, relax as we talk about this issue that affects us all as Nigerians. Not to say too much, I have in the studio Engr Abayomi Onasanya. Welcome, sir.
Thank you so much for having me.
Engr Abayomi Onasanya is a regular face on this show. He is a global director, Africa House, and before now we had been talking about attaining energy independence, and we had talked about subsidy removal. We had dissected it in all the ways that an issue can be dissected, and we had talked about options available for Nigerians. So let us conclude on that topic, attaining energy independence, with Engr Abayomi Onasanya. So sir, to begin with, what are the key benefits of attaining energy independence for any country at all, especially Nigeria?
Thank you for having me. Energy independence basically implies economic prosperity. It implies the cost of production will be reduced because when you spend less on your energy needs, that means you have other areas where you can expend your income on, and of course foreign investors will troop into your country because they know that your energy cost will be stable, and then they can have that confidence to invest more in your economy.
Okay. For a while now, we've always relied on imported petrol.
That's correct.
Not just petrol, other imported things like that. So how has this affected this country? And going away from talking about the effects, how do you see us? Are we ready to start all of this so that we can all production, so that we stop importing petrol, especially?
Well, Nigeria is on an interesting path because we're gradually transitioning away from the idea of importing energy, because for a nation to be prosperous, you cannot depend 100% on importing your energy. And Nigeria, being a blessed nation, we have the crude oil, so basically we can tap into that reserve by, of course, refining and producing our own energy. Even pivoting away from that, we have our gas reserves that can actually support our energy needs. So yes, Nigeria can. We're on the road. We're on the right path, so to say. We're on the right path. Yes.
Okay.
We're going to get there.
So of recent, there has been increase in the prices of petrol.
That's correct.
And then a decrease in the prices of cooking gas. What would you say has happened to make this? Where do you see this going to? What happened that this has happened, and where do you see us going?
Well, the increase in the petroleum price, petrol to be specific, is obvious because Nigeria imports refined petroleum products, and on the international scene, it is simply not profitable any longer for the government to be selling at the hold price, because it was being subsidized. And that's why you saw when the subsidy was removed, the new price reflected the reality in terms of the economic forces, because when you refine, there's a cost to it. When you distribute, there's a cost to it. That's why the petroleum price jumped to that particular price at which they're selling. And of course, gas dropped because Nigeria actually has the reserve. You see, we have abundant reserve of gas, and we've been producing for several years now, so it is only wise for us to start tapping into that, and thankfully we've been doing that. And now you discover that because there's competition now, so price will naturally drop when there are more players in the industry trying to sell the same product. So that's what's responsible for the drop in the gas, the cooking gas prices, which is very, very interesting also, because it's going to help us attain that pivot that I talked about earlier.
Okay. Now, there has been talks now for a while about greening our environment. We all know what happened of recent. There was flooding, and we need to take our environment into consideration in every decision we're taking. Even as we're talking about energy, of course, we need our environment. So what are the environmental implications of using petrol as the primary fuel source? And we also know that as Africans, there's felling of trees. Now, still talking environment and petrol, trying to link it. There's felling of trees for charcoal, for other things, for firewood. You know, and it's all of this. It affects the environment on a larger scale and larger picture. What's your take on this?
Well, yes, petrol and the conventional fuels are notorious polluters of the environment.
Okay.
And the whole world, like you said, is moving towards a greener future. So it's only smart for Nigeria to look for solutions that would reduce our carbon emissions. Petrol, like I said, is a polluter. Gas, on the other hand, reduces the pollution by as much as 50, sometimes 70%, depending on the replacement. If you're using methane or you're using propane, then you're reducing your pollution levels by as much as 70%, you see. So using gas and other renewable energy sources basically helps us attain that green future that we're looking for. Now, of course, if then the gas is cheap enough, people don't have to fell trees, and then we'll have a greener environment where we have cleaner air to breathe in the community.
Okay. How does CNG compare to petrol in terms of costs and efficiency?
That's an interesting question, actually, because yes, CNG is actually cheaper, or let me say gas. I don't want to use the word CNG because there's CNG and then there's LPG. There's a whole variety of gases, actually, if you want to go into that particular sphere.
So yes, it's better to just use gas.
Yes, gas is a lot cheaper because we produce it locally in Nigeria. We don't have to export it, refine it, and bring it back. So it is way cheaper. And we did an analysis, in fact, and we discovered that actually powering even your generators, and I'm not even talking cars now, to generate power for your home, you're saving more than 50% of the cost when you're using gases or the CNG or LPG or whatever to power your generators. So it's way cheaper when compared to petrol. So it's always the cheaper option. Even for nations importing gas, it's still a cheaper option. So Nigeria should transition into that, into the future. The gas is the future, I would say, of energy in Nigeria. It is.
So we'll hold that thought just there and go on a short break. I have been conversing with my guest, Engineer Abayomi, and I told you in my introduction when I was introducing him, I said I almost wanted to enter his head because he's loaded and he has not let us down. We'll go on a short break. When we come back, Good Morning Abuja continues and my guest will still be in the studio. So please stay with us.
Food like a sisterhood. Ain't no food like a sisterhood. Ain't no food like a sisterhood. We all contribute to create the system.
That's true.
And then somehow we should all take collective responsibility for how the system is.
It's that time again where we bring you the best.
Welcome back from that break. My guest is still in the studio, Engineer Abayomi. All right, so we'll continue our conversation. Now, there's been talks about everyone using CNG. We're being advised that we should use CNG. Can you tell us how safe? Some of us are even afraid. You actually told me CNG that I should say it as gas before we went on a break so that everybody understands. So when we begin to use gas, now we know that gas explodes if not properly managed. You know, even the cooking gas in the houses, if you have it in your kitchen and you don't take, there are so many. Just Give us a look into all of that.
Yes, thank you. It's a good thing to transition to gas.
Okay.
And Nigerians must understand that there are different types of gases. Two majorly in Nigeria. We have CNG, which is compressed natural gas.
Okay.
And then we have the liquefied petroleum gas. The LPG, the liquefied natural gas, is the cooking gas that we know, that we've been using for years.
Okay.
And then the CNG is pretty new to us. Although we do have the stock in Nigeria.
Okay.
CNG technology it basically means you are compressing the gas under high pressure, and then you are slowly releasing it to generate energy for you.
Okay.
CNG is not bad in its entirety, but the issue is the safety issues associated with it.
Now, is it the CNG? LPG is the one we use at home.
Yes.
The CNG now, is that what they put in cars to make it move? Because most of us, we don't know.
You can use either CNG or LPG, actually. That's the reality, you see.
Okay.
But you go to places like India, Armenia, they use mostly CNG. Why? Because it's cheap. All right.
Okay.
And my concern, or shall I say the concern here, is that if not properly managed, I'm talking CNG now.
Okay.
There are higher risks of explosion.
Okay.
If you don't have the proper technician to install this equipment or the systems, and if you don't go to the right mechanics, this thing can explode. In fact, when you go to places like Russia, Armenia, and Iran, when you want to fill your CNG at the refuel station, they tell you to alight from the car, and you stay far away, like a kilometer away. Okay. You sit over there while they fill your tank.
Safety measures.
Safety measures. So this has to be put in place. You see, Nigerians, sometimes we're in a hurry. Just fill the tank. Let me go. That should not be the case.
Okay.
On the other hand, LPG is a lot safer because it's basically liquefied petroleum gas. And Nigeria, we've had years of experience handling LPG at home, cooking at home, and whatnot. So the risks of explosion with LPG is much lesser than CNG in a car.
Okay.
So what we are advocating for is fine. We can use CNG provided we've gotten the right security measures in place in terms of the types of tanks. Even the tanks that you install at the back of your car is very important as well.
Okay.
You see the explosion-proof tanks that could be used, and then only qualified technicians, not just the roadside mechanics, should touch a car that runs on CNG. So this is where Nigerians need to be very cautious.
Are we prepared?
If you ask me, I would say no.
Okay.
But we are fast learners. That's what I love about we Nigerians, you see. But again, government needs to put in place checks and balances, because abroad you discover that once your car is outfitted with CNG, you go through a certification process before they allow you to drive it on the road. You see, even they won't renew your vehicle license if it's not up to standard. It happened to me when I was in Iran a few years back, and they refused to certify the car. They were like, no, this has been tampered with. You need to go redo it to make sure it's safe, because they don't want you to die, actually. You see, so those safety measures need to be put in place before we can say yes. But don't worry, as Nigerians, we'll eventually get there. But safety must be the #1 priority.
Okay. So as important as this topic is, and as interesting as this conversation is still time again for us to wrap it up. So what, as your last words, what do you think we need to do as a people, as individuals, as government, to ensure that this transition is smooth, that everybody is prepared before we transit, actually, that we don't just say, oh, we're prepared, and then we jump into it, and then we are neck deep and we cannot move forward, neither backward?
Everything starts with education.
Okay.
The government needs to invest a lot in terms of educating people on how and what needs to be done. For example, what you should do when you want to outfit your cars with CNG, what type of cars you can outfit, and want them not to go to unqualified the technicians to repair their cars or to service their CNG cars that run on CNG or LPG or other gases. So basically, we need to be educated again and again, so that we reach that level whereby we reduce our risks to a minimum, so that in the end we can now say we have energy independence and then we have safety as well. So once we have both, then we have a greener future. Remember, we're saving the environment while we're saving the little change in our pockets.
Yes.
You see, so that's the beauty of it.
All right.
So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Engineer Abayomi Onasanya,
It's my
Global
pleasure.
Director, Africa House.
Thank you very much.
I enjoyed this conversation with you. It was
Thank
an
you very much.
eye-opener.
Thank you so much.
All
Thank
right.
you very much.
My guest has been Engineer Abayomi Onasanya. He is an encyclopedia of knowledge, I tell you. He has spoken so well about attaining energy independence, greening the environment, and all we needed to know on this show before we transit the transition everybody has been talking about. Now, good morning.